8:38 p.m. and we're here for a special work session agenda, a work session to conduct interviews for the zoning board. And it's, as far as been presented to me, we have two candidates present, Deb Casey and Leslie McKnight. So we're going to just call you up by alphabetical order, starting with Miss Deb Casey, and we can get these interviews going. Yes. Good evening.
How's that?
Perfect.
Okay.
Good evening. If you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself and providing us with a general background and why it is that you would like to serve on the zoning board.
Okay. My name's Deborah Casey. I'm a Narragansett resident. I've lived in this town for 50 years, so I'm not a native. I had a career in management consulting. I was a government contractor. I ran my own business. And in human resources, I was director of HR for Care New England, Electric Boat, and my last position, I was director of HR for the town of Westerly. In those years, I developed the ability to read and understand complex materials and to assess and evaluate objectively pieces of information that are presented. I'm computer proficient, and I care a lot about the town. Why I offered to come in is basically, I think it's my civic duty to participate, and I would be interested in doing so. I don't have specific knowledge about zoning, so if you're looking for someone who has that, I'm not your man, but I'm a quick study, and I can read and digest and learn.
I always mute myself. Thank you. With that, I don't know if you guys would like me to just go down the line with questions, or if anyone on the council has any specific questions that they'd like to kick us off with. Start with Ryan. We'll start with Councilor Torrealde.
All right. Thank you very much for coming on in this evening. Appreciate you applying. So could you just talk a little bit more about your experiences with Kent Hospital, as well as within the town of Westerly? A little different there, but could you just talk through those experiences, please?
I could also add I was director of HR for Coventry School System for a bit, too. Had a long career. Well, it was a leadership management role, pretty much. I was dealing with large organizations with lots of employees and lots of different viewpoints. I frequently called upon to, take every side into consideration, especially in employee relations matters, and come up with good solutions. You never make everybody happy, but you do the best you can. It involved a lot of communication to large audiences, writing policies and legal documents. There's a compensation specialty. I was responsible for benefits administration at one time. I merged the pensions for, I oversaw the merger of pensions for Women and Infants Hospital, Butler Hospital, and Kent Hospital, which was a huge project, thousands of employees involved. Worked for a stint at, you didn't ask about Electric Boat, but I was the EEO officer at Electric Boat for a while, so there's some of that in there. So it's a variety of different specialties in HR. I've covered all of them pretty much. And my strength, I think, was a lot of knowledge of the regulations.
Great, thank you. So when it comes to your management experience, people with different viewpoints, how would you describe your mediation style?
Listen. Listen and find common ground.
Listen.
Listen and find common ground.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Colonies.
Thank you for coming. Excuse me. Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure having you here. The one of the bigger issues on that we've been speaking about is the state has provided bonuses in zoning for residential neighborhoods so that setbacks are relieved in the frontage and the sides, and there's also height, although that's something that's not on the table right now for discussion. And then the town quickly removed those bonuses. I'd like to know where you stand on the 15% bonuses that the state has
I'm sorry, what bonuses are you talking about?
regarding setbacks.
Is that the 2-foot difference that occurred in the last year or so?
Yeah, it happened 2 years ago.
Okay, so I was actually caught in the crosshairs of that. I had a little porch going up, and I had to shorten it because of that. So you want my opinion on that?
I do.
I'm not big on high-density development, to be honest. It affected me personally, and I changed my plans. But I feel that if we have a variance, if we have an ordinance, then I think we should, as much as possible, comply with the ordinance or change the ordinance. So I'm not big on. So in my case, I could have applied for a variance for 2 more feet that I got. I already had my design all drawn out. I had a contractor hired. We were in the permitting process, and I had to trim off 2 feet. I trimmed off the 2 feet, so I guess that can walk the talk.
Thank you very much.
I'm not in favor of, having it. I have a 10-foot setback where I am. I wouldn't want it to be any smaller than that. Actually, now it's 12 feet.
Got you.
No, it was 10 feet. I wouldn't want it to be smaller than that, no.
Right.
I mean, are there extenuating cases? I would certainly be willing to listen and evaluate whether there's something that's, where there should be an exception made. There's always room for an exception under the right circumstances. But my preference is for maintaining setbacks.
Excellent. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Councilor Durkin.
Hi, Ms. Casey.
Hi.
Thanks for coming. How big was your lot? Do you remember how big your frontage was on your lot?
How big the what was?
The lot?
The
that you were
frontage?
trying to-
It's about 100-foot frontage. So I have 2 lots. They're roughly 100 by 100 each.
Oh, good for you. So you have one house on the 2 lots, or you have an empty lot?
I have an empty lot.
Okay. So, did you apply, so you were in the process of doing your project on your porch, and then the town increased the setbacks, and then before you got the permit, I guess?
Yes, I guess so, before the permit.
Yeah.
So the town sent out letters to the neighbors,
Yeah.
and one of my neighbors objected.
Oh, so you applied for the modification?
A modification, that's what it was, yes.
Okay. And they objected to your porch?
Yes.
Really?
So it's just an access porch, really, on the side of the house. So instead of it being 6 feet deep, it's 4 feet deep.
Well, that's an interesting story.
What I was doing is, now this is something of interest maybe to someone my age at least, I'm interested in aging in place in my home.
Right.
So I'm making access without stairs to enter into the house, and this porch allows me to do that.
So if they hadn't changed it, if that council hadn't increased it by 15%, then obviously you would have been able to decrease it by 15% with a modification. So you wouldn't have been able to even do that because your neighbors probably would have signed the modification for that. as
I
well.
like to think, and then it goes back to the other gentleman's question, I'd like to think that if I had pursued it, given the nature of what I was trying to do, what I'm trying to do, I would like to think that I would have gotten approval to do the 6 feet. In the end, I mean, it's kind of silly, because in the end, I'm able to put a stone patio. I just can't have a porch.
Right. Yeah, well, a lot of things don't make sense sometimes. So you didn't choose to go to the zoning board and do the variance and,
I did not.
right. And it was maybe the expense or the time or the chance of them saying no, or
I
all of
really
those
didn't
things.
think they would say no, as I said, because I think I have a very good reason. And if you saw the property, you would see that the difference, the 2 feet aren't making any difference in this case. So it wasn't that I was afraid they would say no, it was the time
yeah.
and the aggravation.
Yeah, so, yeah, well, I don't want to make this political, I just want to ask you the questions, but that's an interesting story, because we're trying to change that so people can not go through that process, but anyway.
What you want to change is that a neighbor can just say, I object, without giving any reason.
Yeah.
That ought
yeah.
to get changed.
Yeah, it's supposed to make it easier because there's only usually 2 neighbors or 3 neighbors abutting your property instead of, sending it out to the world and having a public hearing and all of that stuff. But it seems like a lot of complications for 2 feet. So sorry you had to do that.
Well, and that's why I decided I would just, I'm pretty good at workarounds. So
Yeah.
I made it work for
Yeah,
what I needed
yeah.
to get done.
Well, you're lucky to have enough space to have those options. That's all I have to ask.
Thank you. Councilor Vignelli.
Good evening, and thank you for coming. I guess my question is just kind of a follow-up to sort of that. So the planning board, you'll be working with the planning board, and the planning board will be making recommendations to the zoning board. And in the event that a recommendation comes forward, like yours, and you just disagree with it, are you willing to stand up and say that you disagree with the planning board and look at all the options and look at all the circumstances with your decision?
Absolutely. If I in fact disagree, I would have no problem with that, no.
Okay.
I'm used to having confrontational situations. So.
Yeah, we're not looking for, but just, that you would, if in the event you disagreed, that you would stand up and just make it known. And what do you view as being your duties for the zoning board?
My what?
What do you view as your duties? What role do you think you play on the zoning board?
I'd like to think of myself as an intelligent person who would have the best interest of the town in mind, and that I could bring some valuable input to help make a difference.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And my final questions are just basic general understanding. Can you just describe what your understanding of what the zoning board does?
So I've had zoning things over the years here, so it's strictly a layperson's understanding. I haven't read all of it at all. So the example that I gave, that's mostly my understanding of what it does. I know it does a lot more than that in terms of comprehensive plan and all of those things, but I don't have any experience with intimate knowledge of that. But my understanding more relates to the building of structures and compliance with ordinances associated therewith.
Okay. And I apologize, I don't know if I could hear you. Did you say you did or did not read the comprehensive plan?
Oh, I had every intention of doing it, but
Okay.
I hosted a ton of people for Thanksgiving, and it just
Nope.
didn't happen, so.
Nope, thank you. But that is something that you would be planning on doing?
Oh, for sure. I would hope someone would, point me to a pile of material that I'd have to, become conversant with.
Thank you. And with your understanding of what the zoning board does, what is your understanding of how the zoning board relates to and interacts with the planning board?
Okay. I forget which one goes first. I don't have a good answer to that. I know it's a sequence, and I've gone through it a couple of times in years past. But I think planning helps with the design aspects of what's being done, and zoning is more related to the ordinances. But I don't know.
That's good. Thank you. And then lastly, have you ever attended a zoning board meeting?
I have. Many, many years ago, I had a property that required a lot of approvals.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate you coming out this afternoon, to interview for this position, and I hope, and again, this goes without saying, but it's really a thankless position for anyone to want to get involved in any community service. So really appreciate you, especially during this holiday season, taking the initiative to come out here and interview with us, and we wish you all the best of luck on this, and I hope you'll stay involved because you seem like a really wonderful person based on everything that we've learned here at this evening.
Well, thank you all for your time. Speaking of thankless, you guys have a tough job.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. All right, thank you.
So next up, we will have Ms. Leslie McKnight.
Good evening.
Good evening. And I don't know if we've touched base on it before, but this portion is just the interviews, and then during the regular meeting is when the council will make their decision as to who to appoint. That might take a little while since, based on its location on the agenda, so in case anyone doesn't want to stick around, it will be viewed online. But good evening. Same question, can you please just provide us with a general introduction of yourself and a background of who you are, what it is that you do, and why you want to serve on the zoning board?
Sure. So my husband and I bought our first house in Narragansett in 2004. We were seasonal residents and landlords. We rented to URI students for 6 years. We would not have been able to buy a second home if we didn't have the ability to rent that to help cover our mortgage. Again, we went home after 6 wonderful summers, and in the 6th year, we decided we did not want to leave Narragansett. We wanted to make it our full-time residence. So we moved here full-time in 2009. 3 of my 4 children attended Narragansett Public Schools and graduated from Narragansett High School. The best decision we ever made to bring our family to this community. We've made lifelong friends, and as well as they have. It was a great community to raise a family. I, for the last 30 years, have been employed at the state's Housing Finance Agency. I am the Assistant Deputy Director of the Loan Servicing Division within the agency. So I am familiar with all things housing. I am familiar with the comp plan. I'm familiar with the requirements under the state comprehensive plan. I am familiar with the General Assembly's decisions to increase housing in the state of Rhode Island. I understand how critical housing is, and that we have a significant shortage of housing, probably on a national basis, but definitely in Rhode Island and particularly in Narragansett. In addition to that, I have served for about 15 years on the Rhode Island Joint Reinsurance Governing Committee as a public member. And for those of you who do not know, the Rhode Island Joint Reinsurance Association is the FAIR plan for Rhode Island. So when people cannot obtain homeowners insurance for whatever reason, because they live in a coastal community, they go to the FAIR plan. So it's the provider of last resort. I also have served for about 20 years on a scholarship committee at the Rhode Island Foundation. And for the past 2 years, I have been on the Bonnet Shores Fire District Council. I was vice chair last year, and I am the chair this year. So I have an understanding of serving on a public board and all that goes along with it, the good and the bad. So that's who I am.
Thank you. And I'm just going to ask a follow-up question. You mentioned your familiarity with the state housing plan. Would you mind just giving us a brief soundbite as to what that entails, just how familiar you are? What does it say?
It's Housing 2030, and it's the plan for the next 5 years and how we address that critical housing shortage that we have in Rhode Island. And there's a variety of different things that the General Assembly and the governor have put forward. And many of those are related to the ordinances that I know this council wants to pass. I don't think that people understand how critical housing is. Housing is provides stability in everything that everyone does in their life, whether it be a child attending school, to have a secure place to live, helps them be a better student, helps them grow individually as a person. I know that Speaker Sakachi said housing is where jobs go to sleep at night. It has to do with economic growth in the state of Rhode Island. We can't bring people into this state and we can't grow business without having places for them to live. Affordability is another critical issue, and that clearly is the part of Housing 2030 plan. It's very expensive. We know in Narragansett how expensive it is, but it's expensive in every community. Like I said, I have three children who grew up in this community and would love nothing more to be able to live here. Only one of them lives here. He rents. He was able to find what is called natural occurring affordable housing, or NOAA. Just happens to be that there are landlords in this community that are willing to rent to people at affordable rents to help with sustainability, to help provide housing, to help keep good tenants. So there is a variety of funding that's available through Housing 2030, and some of that funding may be administered through Rhode Island Housing. You may or may not ask me about conflicts, but I'll answer that before we even get there. If Rhode Island Housing provides funding for any development, whether it be affordable or otherwise, that comes to the zoning board, I would have to recuse myself from that because I am maybe not a decision maker in that funding, but I am exposed to that funding and I may service the loans associated with that funding.
Well, I appreciate that very thorough overview, and I think you'd actually make a tremendous asset to the Affordable Housing Committee as well if you ever pop your head into one of those meetings.
I've
just
come to the meetings.
providing a general understanding and providing some education for them. I know the door's always open for them. So really appreciate you sharing that and giving that high-level overview. I'm going to pass the mic off to Councilor Torialde to get us going with questions.
Thank you very much for coming on in this evening. With regards to Housing 2030, what are some areas of the plan which you believe are a step in the right direction, and what are some areas where it falls short?
Okay.
With applicability to Narragansett.
Well, I think Narragansett. So first of all, I've sat in on a number of different meetings of a variety of different people from throughout the state, and I think that one of the critical issues is how to bring housing development into the state of Rhode Island, and there are obstacles to that. So I think that where some of these ordinances and where the housing plan got it right is trying to address what some of those obstacles are and listening to people who actually are the developers and people who do the work. So I know, I'm familiar with what people believe in this community about developers. However, they are the people who are going to do the building. They're the people who are going to create the housing. So you have to listen to what they have to say, and you have to make it feasible for them to want to make the investment into the development. So relieving some of the requirements and making it more streamlined in order to be able to obtain permits and come forward with developments is critical if you want people to come into this state and build housing. In terms of Narragansett, we're unique, right? We are a tourist community. We've been a tourist community since the mid-1800s. I think tourism last year brought $6 billion in revenue into the state of Rhode Island. And Narragansett does more than its fair share of bringing that tourist dollars into the state. We, I think, have three constituencies. We have the tourists and the seasonal residents. We have full-time residents, and then we have the URI students. Excuse me. So I think we're unique. We're a little bit different than some other communities that traditionally just have full-time residents. And I think that's really what's where a lot of the passion has come from in some of the pushback on the ordinances. However, we need housing in Narragansett just like any other community needs housing. There are people, anyone should have an opportunity to live in this wonderful community, regardless of what their income is, regardless of what, at what price point they can purchase a home. So, you know, that's one of the reasons I support it. But I do recognize that Narragansett is a little bit different than a Cranston or a Warwick or a Pawtucket, just given the uniqueness of our community in those three individual constituencies.
Thank you. Do you currently rent a second property?
No, I own. I am just a full-time resident, and I only own the home that I live in full-time.
Thank you. On your application, you had said zoning board plays a critical role in this by regulating the use of property and working to strike a balance between the property owner's rights and the public's right. Could you just expound a little bit on that dichotomy there, property owner's rights and public's rights?
Okay, so in terms of the public's rights, I mean, I think you asked the prior applicant a little bit about you know, setbacks and so forth. So she's a property owner. She wanted to put a deck on her property, right? So she has a right to that deck. The abutting property owners, for some reason, did not want maybe that encroachment, or they felt it was too close to their property. So that's kind of the balance. You've got an abutting property owner who wants to keep their distance from the home that's being constructed next door, the deck that's being built next door, but you also have an individual who wants to age in place and wants to have that access to their home. So I think that's what I mean by balance, right? Somebody who owns their property should have a right to expand their property. You might have a family who wants to remain in Narragansett, and they may have purchased their home at a time when property values were affordable. But it was a starter home. That's how they came here. Now they have a larger family. They need more space. They should have a right to expand their house. Otherwise, they may not be able to find something else that's affordable for them in this community. So I think it's really all about balance. It's all about, you know, who we are and in each of the constituencies that currently own real estate here. I'll give you another example. ADU, I'm a full supporter of the ADU. We actually, in the community that we lived in prior to coming to Narragansett, we built a home in the early 1990s, and we built an accessory dwelling unit on our home. My parents came to live with us. It was a win-win situation. They were able to age with us being there to help them, and they were there to help us while we raised our children and get them off the bus and so forth. We would not have been able to do what we did in our careers without having our parents there. Again, a right. Why shouldn't I have the right to build an ADU so that my aging parents can come and live with me? Another benefit of an ADU might be, I talked about my 3 children who can't afford to live in the town of Narragansett. I might want to build an ADU as an apartment for one of my children so that they can live in the community that they were raised in. We might find first-time home buyers who find a raised ranch in Pettisquamscot, and that's at their price point, but they need a little bit of extra help. What's wrong with putting an ADU unit in there so they can get some additional rental income and open up an opportunity for another individual who might want to reside and rent in the town of Narragansett? So again, I think ADUs are a win-win situation and an example of balancing a property owner's right.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Colonies.
Thank you very much for coming out tonight. The president and Councilor Torrielde asked every question that I was going to possibly ask. So you've answered all my questions. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your knowledge, and I'm going to move
Yield
my time
the
over.
time back
Yes.
over. Okay, thank you. Councilor Durkin.
Hi, Leslie, thanks for coming. Thanks, nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you. Nice
The,
meeting all of you.
What's that?
Nice meeting all of you.
Yeah, yeah. So, you're a busy girl, lady. You got a lot of stuff going on. It's good. So, as far, like, the biggest thing we have, I think you touched on it a little bit, but, like, Narragansett's full of small lots, you know? And a lot of the things that, you know, we've put forward is to help people with small lots, because the people with big lots really don't need any help. They have plenty of room to expand. They have plenty of room to put the porch on. They can put 10 decks on. They can build sheds, garages, whatever they want to do. And sometimes people say, well, you know, if they can't fit it on their lot, why don't they just buy a bigger lot? And, like, I guess that's possible certain places, but it's really not possible in Narragansett if your budget is not there. So, you know, they wanna age in place. You know, they want to expand their house to enjoy their property because they like their neighbors and they like their location to the beach or whatever, and they're forced to not be able to do that. And they can't find another place to go, so they're forced to leave town. What do you think about that? Like, is
Well,
that,
I think I just spoke to that, you know,
Yeah.
in terms of, I didn't speak to building a new build on an undersized lot. I spoke to the expansion of an existing property to give somebody the ability to age in place or to expand for their family's needs. So I definitely support that, and I support the reduction in setbacks for that reason. In terms of building a house on an undersized lot, I guess it would depend on the implications of building that house on that undersized lot. So, you know, looking at Appendix A, there's a lot of different purposes for zoning regulations, right? And I think we'd have to look at each of the purposes in Appendix A and make sure that we were doing what is best for our community. So again, we're balancing the property rights, right, the ownership rights of that individual who has that lot, who wants to build a house, who wants to reside here, and we're balancing that against the zoning regulations in Appendix A. And are we meeting the zoning regulations? Are we protecting the quality of life of the people who live here? Are we protecting our natural resources, right? Because Narragansett is all about our natural resources. We're looking at, I mean, I know we have challenges right now with our utilities. We have challenges with our sewer plant. We have challenges with our water supply. So all of those factors have to be taken into consideration. But I'm all about property rights and people having the right, you know, to build on their home, as long as that does not have a detrimental impact on all of the other items that are outlined in Appendix A. So we need to find a way to balance it. And if we need to do something with our sewer system, or we need to do something with our water supply, then that's what we need to do, right? Because we have a responsibility in the town to make this the best possible place for families and for people to live.
thank you. I'm good.
Thank you, and Councilor Vignelli.
I would just like to say that you perfectly articulated exactly what I would like to see for Narragansett and my thoughts on how I would like to see housing and the ADUs and having families be able to stay in place and have elderly be able to live and stay in their homes. So I think I would just like to say thank you, and I agree with majority of everything that you just said. So thank you.
And again, mine is just the more formality of just the general understanding of what the zoning board does. Would you mind just describing what your understanding of what the zoning board does?
Okay, so as I said, Code of Regulations, Appendix A, making sure that we have responsible development, making sure that people have certain rights to either build on their property as new build, additions to their property, balancing. I keep using the word balance, but I think that that's such a critical word, that we have to try to find ways to balance someone's quality of life along with their rights as a property owner.
And because you termed it responsible development, would you just mind defining what you mean by responsible development?
I think I talked a little bit about it. So I'm just looking at I made a couple of notes in terms of, the purposes that are in the Appendix A, to me, that are really, really important. So item number 2, purpose number 2 in Appendix A, providing for a range of uses to reflect current and future needs of our community, right? And that, I think, is what we're trying to do, and I think that's what Housing 2030 is trying to do, addressing current and future needs. Number 3, providing for orderly growth and development, and that's what I think I mean by, responsible development. What do we want our community to look like? What will it look like if we make zoning changes? Number 7, providing for protection of public investment, and so that investment includes, like I talked about, our sewer system, our water system, even our schools. Like I said, I think my kids got the best possible education that they could get in any public school system in the state of Rhode Island. I would hate to see our school systems, our school system, it has dwindling enrollment. I'd like to see more opportunities for families in Narragansett. Responsible development. Promoting a balance of housing choices for all income groups. And obviously, I'm a supporter of affordable housing, giving anyone who wants to live in this community an opportunity to live here. Just because they don't make the $265,000+ that is needed according to Housing Works Rhode Island Fact Book. You need to earn $265,000 a year to live in Narragansett to purchase a median-priced home at $865,000, or $128,000 just to be able to rent an apartment in Narragansett.
Well said. And I think I know the answer, but you have read the comprehensive plan?
Absolutely. I know that we're due for an update to our comprehensive plan.
Mm-hmm.
The data in that comprehensive plan is dated, right? Our demographic, what we look like, has changed, and we need a new one so we can use that information to make informed and responsible decisions about development and growth in our town.
Excellent. And have you ever been to a zoning board meeting?
So I tend to virtually attend meetings now, not in person, and I have virtually attended both planning and zoning.
And you wouldn't have any issues attending in person should you be selected?
No.
Okay. And then lastly, what is your understanding of the zoning board's relationship to the planning board and how they interact?
So the planning board is an advisory board. It comes first. So things go before the planning board first, and then they come for the decision at the zoning board level. So they're advisory. They review, they pass it on to the zoning, and ultimately the zoning board makes the final decision.
Excellent. Well, again, really appreciate you taking the time to come out here and the initiative to apply for this open position. I think both applicants would make tremendous representatives and ambassadors to our town. I think you both did a tremendous job, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I see, Karen, you're in attendance. Did you want to say anything, or were you just here to view?
I'm just here to listen to
Okay.
great candidates, but if you have any questions for me, happy to answer.
No, I think we're all set. We're so familiar with you because it seems like just yesterday we interviewed with you. So really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here, and that'll conclude our interviews for this evening because I don't believe Ms. Holder is present. So with that, we will conclude and